couple of years, there is no waterfall we see because of the watershed treatment. Slow, it gets reduce the speed.
In the last episode, we took a journey with the Pani Foundation and learned about their competition between thousands of villages to see who can install the most amount of water harvesting structures in a 45-day period. In this episode, we journey again with the Pani Foundation's chief advisor, Dr. Avinash Pol, to the village of Velu, located in an arid area in the state of Maharashtra that receives around 250 to 300 millimeters or 8 to 12 inches of rainfall per year. Velu was the first place winner of the very first Water Cup competition held in 2016. This was a huge deal for them, and when I visited more than 3 years after their victory, they were continuing to work on their groundwater recharge projects. This part of India receives nearly all of its rainfall during the 3-month monsoons. They can then be dry for the entire 9 months remaining in the year. So all of that water they have for drinking and farming comes in a short period of time and needs to last all the way through the long dry season. Once creeks and ponds have dried up after the rains, people are mostly getting their water for their homes and crops by pumping from hand-dug wells. This groundwater is the lifeblood of the village. When wells run dry, villagers have to import water in tanker trucks or migrate away in search of work until the monsoons come again. This is why recharging groundwater is the focus of the Water Cup competition. When water harvesting structures are built that soak the monsoon rains into the ground, groundwater resources increase very quickly. And this is what has happened in the village of Velu since they won the competition in 2016. We traveled over bumpy roads to Velu village to see the unique design they have developed for recharging the groundwater table. We arrived at the village where we were met by a gang of older men on motorcycles who would take us throughout the watershed to see their work.
So right now we are in the village Velu, which is in Koregaon Tehsil and district Satara of Maharashtra. This is one of the innovative project. On the back side of me, you can watch a percolation tank. The purpose of the percolation tank is that to percolate the water after a rain season, and it start to increase the groundwater table. But due to the improper site, this percolation tank is made on a rocky area. That's why the water does not percolate into the ground. In rainy season, the water goes from this area. This is called the waste weir, and it reaches to the river, at least for the 4 months. And this water will remain for the full year because it is on the rocky base.
So although this reservoir has a large watershed of over 1,100 acres, it was built over bedrock and was not soaking any water into the groundwater table. Even though lots of rain would run off during the monsoon season, the water would just spill through the reservoir and flow on down the stream and out of the village without recharging the groundwater table. Meanwhile, as the village was drying up, 4 water percolation tanks just up from the village sat mostly empty. These tanks were built originally to fill with rains and recharge the groundwater in the village, but they have much smaller areas of land draining into them and had not filled during the last 25 years of relative drought. The villagers realized that if they raised the level of the spillway, what Dr. Pol referred to as a waste weir, then the water level in the whole reservoir would rise, and instead of all the water gushing through the spillway, they could get the water to flow through a gate on the other side of the reservoir. This gate then puts the water into an underground pipeline that flows by gravity using no electricity, and the water is moved across the land to the other 4 percolation tanks to fill them up. From the tanks, the water soaks into the groundwater table and is stored in the ground for village and farm use. So instead of a huge amount of water being lost out of the village quickly as surface flow during the rainy season, it now seeps slowly underground, making it available not only for Velu, but for the many villages downstream of Velu as well.
Due to this project, these all percolation tanks are now filled with full of water, which increase the level of groundwater. All the wells are get recharged, all the bore wells are get recharged. And another important thing is that you can hear a voice of the animals, birds. You can hear this voice, which is not heard few years back, because totally it is a dry land. Now from couple of years we preserve all this forest land, and that's why the ecosystem also now changing.
Velu Village is a really advanced example of the work of the Pani Foundation. They have solved their water problems. And of the thousands of villages that competed in the Water Cup competition in the last 4 years, over 1,000 of those villages in the state of Maharashtra can say the same. They have completely and permanently solved their water problems with a stable system for recharging groundwater. They have established water resilience and defeated drought. So what's next? The Pani Foundation doesn't use the word permaculture to describe what they do, but their work is permaculture to its core. From the permaculture perspective, water management structures serve as the bones of a landscape system, and built on top of those bones we find the body of organic soil, forests, thriving ecosystems, biodiverse agriculture, and prosperous communities. Water is not the end of the design, it is the beginning. The Water Cup competition is just the first step, and now the Pani Foundation has moved on to the next phase of their work, the Prosperous Village competition. This next phase of the competition is only open to the 1,000 villages that completely solved their water issues during the first competition. The duration of this next competition is 2 years, and it goes in depth into these 6 main topics that the villages are judged on. Soil and water conservation, water management and budgeting, restoring soil quality and health, increasing tree cover and growing forests, creating protected grasslands of nutritious and palatable grasses, creating the basis for every family to increase their income. So imagine for a moment what type of cooperation and coordination it takes for a village to achieve all these goals over the entire landscape that it governs and to win the competition. Water and soil management on every farm and common land, tree planting and forest establishment on private and community lands, and having every single family in the village prosper from these developments. These people need to truly reckon with social, economic, political, and physical realities in a holistic design for their village in order to accomplish this. And as we've seen, the benefits are not just for the people, but habitat, species diversity, and ecosystem health are also increased. That right there is permaculture at its core. The Pani Foundation has had thousands of villages recharging their aquifers, and now over 1,000 villages working in a holistic manner on their ecological, economic, and social prosperity. So far, we've looked at just 2 of these villages, Gairavadi and Velu, and the scale of the land that they have improved. So imagine these projects we have seen multiplied thousands of times. In just 4 years, the Pani Foundation has created 550 billion liters of water storage capacity and trained 51,000 people in watershed restoration. They don't use the word permaculture to describe what they do, but I'm naming the work of the Pani Foundation as the biggest permaculture project on Earth. Please make sure to subscribe and join us for our next episode of India's Water Revolution, where we travel across India to the state of West Bengal, where we tour the water harvesting projects in remote tribal villages, where good work is being done on the most marginal lands by the most marginalized people.